From the News Channel 5 Network, this is MorningLine.
Good morning, everyone. Thanks for joining us on MorningLine. I'm Nick Barris. It's Monday. Do hope you had a good weekend, and I'm glad that you're joining your Monday morning with us here on MorningLine. And we've got a great show on tap to get things rolling. We'll get the phone number up there in just a moment, but we're going to be talking about the legal profession, the law, to some degree estate planning, but things you need to have in place as you age. And as you see on the screen there, elder law is the topic of conversation. Our guest this morning, our regular, we know him. Gosh, how long have we been doing this, Tim Takis?
Since about 2002, I think.
It's just awesome.
Yeah, it really is.
I mean, think about it, that long, and you know, your practice has prospered, I think because you were one of those wise enough to recognize that elder law was going to be something that's going to get bigger and bigger as we all age.
It's basically the estate planning of the 21st century.
Yep,
where,
that's exactly right.
Because I think about that, where when I went to law school, back in the late 70s, there was no such thing as elder law. The lawyers took, the law students, you took estate planning. None of the things like Medicare, Medicaid, Social Security, none of that was in the law school curriculum. And all of the stuff about elder law is all of it that we learned, once we started practicing law.
And that's what your emphasis is.
It is.
Okay,
right.
Meaning that someone will say, well, how are you different than another attorney I might go to who is a general practitioner? And you do general things, but your focus is that who could help me with a will? How do you do things differently?
Right. Well, what we focus on is the living client who is aging. Okay. And often we're helping the clients or their families or both, in dealing with the issues that they have as they age. People age. Some people age, I won't say worse than others, but in some ways that is where they get disabilities or incapacities, they develop Alzheimer's disease, they develop multiple chronic conditions that limit their ability to function in the community or whatever. And our focus in our practice is sort of I guess you could say an integrated or a comprehensive approach to helping the clients address their personal care needs, because it's their personal care needs that impact their legal and financial decisions that they make and the issues that they have. So,
is it family members that will bring in their loved ones who are aging, or is it the aged themselves?
Both. A lot of times a lot of times the older people will come in, and because they know they need to get things like, around this part of the country we say we need to get our ducks in a row. So they come in, well, we don't have anything yet, we need to get our ducks in the row. And then always when we start having these conversations, we talk about, okay, you're coming in here to get your ducks in a row. Almost always the first questions is, how is your health?
That's the first question you'll ask them?
Right. It's like, are you in good health? Are you in poor health? All of our, when people call in and they say, well, I want to set up an appointment to see us, we send out a short workbook, and on the second page of our workbook, after they give us their basic information, is tell us about your health. What illnesses do you have? You've been to the hospital recently? What medical problems are you having now? And all those sorts of things. What have you been diagnosed? And all of those sorts of things, because we know that's what drives the planning for our older clients.
So when you get that information, do you have some type of formula where you try to get with them and determine how much longer they will live?
That's interesting that you mentioned that, Nick, because one of the things that we know about that we've seen about the medical profession, it's very difficult for people in the medical profession to tell their patients about how long they're going to live.
Meaning difficult to share that information, or difficult to get it accurate? Because it's hard to predict.
It is hard to predict.
Sure.
I think, and I certainly don't want to speak for the medical profession, but what we've seen a lot is our families appreciate us explaining to them, well, your loved one has X, Y, and Z, and all of what we really want when we're planning, and you have chronic illnesses or whatever it is. Okay, doctor, tell me how long I have, because that's going to help me make plans.
Right, because then you'll know how to budget.
Yes,
and
exactly.
If you think, well, maybe they have another 2 decades, okay, 20 years. Then you look at what their resources are and you determine what they have available to them.
And the good part about it, and I know, our regular viewers know the type of practice that we have. We have our elder care coordinators. We have a in the past, I've had nurses on staff, and in fact, my law partner is a geriatric nurse practitioner.
Okay.
I've got a social worker on staff, former district long-term care ombudsman, and our focus is, okay, tell us what your issues are, your health issues are, because that helps us figure out, what can we expect from you?
Sure.
Do you have 2 years? Do you have 10 years? Do you have somewhere in between? All of those sorts of things, that all of it really, what we can help and make regional projections about, helps us make good decisions, help you make good decisions.
Sure.
And when you ask me, like, well, what makes us different? I think that's probably what really makes us different, because we're looking at, older people, and we're planning for the long haul.
Right.
So what can they expect? I think they appreciate that, look, we don't often, we don't always get it right. Needless to say, sometimes we get it wrong. But I think our clients appreciate that
and as we, and it's a Monday morning, we'll see. Hopefully we'll get some calls and the questions. But I want to lay out 737-7587 is the number if you want to jump in. But, all right, what percentage do you sense of the population as they age actually seek out the type of help you provide? And if they don't, are they just kind of flying blind? Are these the folks who, well, I have my 401k, or I have some pension, I know I'm going to get some Social Security, and what percentage? Do you have any idea? I mean, I would imagine it's more it's the exception to the rule that comes to you, as opposed to the average individual. One, maybe they don't have the resources, though you can find ways to affordably come to you, but they don't have the resources, or they don't think they need it necessarily. Maybe they don't.
Right. Well, and that's part, I think what I can tell you there is, as far as the percentage, but what we are seeing a trend, and since I've been doing this for 20-some years, people used to be 20 years ago, people would walk into the office, 70s and 80s, they would have no basic estate planning at all in place. Now 80% of them do.
Have something
They have something in place. They know, well, I know I need to get wills and powers of attorney in place, because I've heard all of that. But part of the concern that we have, I think, for our basically for what we do is that this area of planning is not easy. Because there are so many different things that can happen to somebody. It's easy to plan at the beginning. Meaning, when I say the beginning, is if, let's say that you're in your late 60s, you're 70 years old, and you're in okay health. Well, I know I need to get estate planning in place, so you get your estate planning in place. Or maybe you get to 90, and you're in very poor health, and maybe you've only got, maybe a year or two to live. Those people are not difficult to plan for either, typically. But you have a whole bunch of people right there in the middle who are aging, and they're losing function at various rates. Some of them are losing little function, some are losing a lot of function. Some people have Alzheimer's disease, some people have Alzheimer's disease and congestive heart failure. Some people have a bunch of different things. And so it's easy to plan, well, just to get your documents in place, and then if something bad happens, then come in here and we'll help you get to the, help you figure out how to pay the nursing home. Right. And that's what traditional elder law has been. Our method of practice, which we go around the country and we teach this practice model to other lawyers. In fact, other lawyers come to our office. I mean, I think probably I've said this before, is that since about 2002, we average about what we call attorney visitor a month. People come from all over the country.
To learn from you.
Yeah, they come and visit our practice, they study our model, and that's been really very gratifying, because we're able to spread, what we know. And so, when you start talking about the percentage of of people who are able to be helped, there are lawyers all over the country now that have a model similar to ours.
Well, and you're helping them. But that's I'm glad you said that. Don't want to brag too much on you, but they come to you to get it going, because you're one of the foremost, and you were one of the first to do this, which is great. So,
absolutely.
And we're lucky to have you here in Middle Tennessee. Listen, we got to take the break on that. When we come back, though, we've got some calls coming in. Eddie, you'll be first, and then we'll take others. The lines are open, 737-7587. As soon as we come back from this break, any of the questions about some of the things he was talking about, we'll lay more of that out for you when we come back. But back next with more phone calls right after this. Stay with us.